What are we talking about? Practice? We're talking about practice, man.
This is UnCleated with Garrett, Gibbs, and Jason Bishop.
In my opinion, that sucked.
We failed to make our coaching points and our points more compelling than their fat little girlfriend.
Oh my God, did he really just say that?
1, 2, 3, go! UnCleated. Jason Bishop, Garrett Gibbs, right here on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Today we're going to be talking top 25, give our picks for next week's game. Garrett has a rant that he's going to go on concerning the targeting rule. I'm basically just going to sit and listen. I might chime in here and there, but man, we were talking about. He's fired up.
I can't wait. I can't wait to unload.
We were talking about in preparation, and we just had to move on. I was like, man, we gotta move on from that, dude. We got other stuff to talk about. Georgia Florida's coming up. We're gonna get into that, and Garrett also has a story that he's gonna. I'm gonna talk some Netflix. I'm gonna talk Netflix a little later. That's what I'm gonna do.
I'll tell you that. I think that's one you could bring up every week.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get into. You know what? Before we do, I do have a funny story. As you know, I help out with a lot of high school stuff around the area, and so I went and broadcasted a high school football game in Savannah for one of our radio partners. And Friday night, it was cold, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was freezing. So I'm in Savannah. I'm not going to name the school. I should. Pissed me off pretty good. I should call them out. I'm not going to because I'm not that low yet. Yet. So we get to the stadium, and they have 3 rooms in their press box.
Okay.
The rooms are set up for their coaches, their PA folks, and then the far right room. Who would you think would go in there? Maybe
I would think the visiting coaches.
The visiting coaches
would be my first guess.
Maybe the visiting broadcast team, i.e. Jason Bishop. That would be
Yeah.
Negative. Wrong on both accounts. A high school broadcasting class goes in there. So the next question is, well, if the high school broadcasting class is there and then the rest of the press box is taken up, where do the coaches go? Where does the broadcasting team go, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty...
What did they do? Put y'all on the... I mean, did they put y'all down on the sideline? I mean, what did they do?
Close. On top of the press box.
Wow, yeah, that's right.
They literally have the coaches... They have a fence on top of their a chain link fence, like ghetto as all get out. Literally a chain link fence on top of their press box. The coaches have their headsets hanging on the fence so that they could use them between halves and stuff. And then on the far other side, that's where they set us up to do the broadcast. They brought us a table and a couple of chairs and said, "And here's an extension cord. Take off." Initially, they wanted us to set up right next to the coaches, literally like 2 feet from the coaches. Now, I don't know if you know too much about high school football, but the last place you want to be doing a broadcast is right next to a bunch of coaches calling plays.
You got that right, because I have seen 1 or 2 in my life, and let's just say it's not a place for children.
Yeah, it's not PG, folks. I'm telling you. So we actually had to beg them to move us to the other side of the on top of the press box. And so they set us up a chair. Now here's the thing, George Rose did the game with me. Now, of course, George Rose is a former NFL player and now Glenn County Sports Hall of Fame, all that stuff. I love George. George is an older gentleman. I'm not gonna call him out and date him, but to ask an older gentleman to sit there and call a game. Granted, it was 43 degrees.
Yeah.
And so I made them bring us a blanket and a space heater. Made them do it. And they wanted to fight me on. And the space heater they brought was no bigger than maybe our laptops.
It was a foot warmer.
Yeah,
that's what they brought.
Essentially, that's what it was. So man, I was hot.
But they did give you a cord, extension cord.
Yeah, fortunately.
They did?
Yeah, we had to beg for. They had to sign. No kidding. I had to sign out the cord on a sign out sheet. I'm not kidding you.
Well, I'd have still took it home. It's been my souvenir.
Yeah.
For the headache I had.
Insane.
That's crazy how they do stuff like that, as well as the athletic. I say industry. I mean, how far we've come, or they've come, and to have stuff still set up like that. I mean,
It
with
was
all the
ridiculous.
money that's rolling around out there,
And it wasn't a poor school. That's the thing. Again, it wasn't one of those typical Savannah schools that don't really pay attention to football. This one does.
right.
And technically it wasn't in Savannah. It was in Springfield.
Yeah.
So if you know what school is in Springfield, you know what I'm talking about. But again, I'm not going to call them out. You had a big weekend too, didn't you?
Yeah, we went to a couple of our buddies. Got married over the weekend, and
A couple of them.
Well, both of them are friends of ours.
Oh.
So, yeah, it was only one wedding, so the only thing we had a good time. It was a nice setup, and only thing I'm gonna comment on that is I've been married. It'll be 3 years this November.
Seems like it's longer than that.
Yeah, well, we've been together 12.
Yeah.
So I've been married 12 years. I'll go ahead and say that because she'll get offended if I don't include those 9 other years. But let me just say this: anybody out there just planning a wedding, planning on participating in a wedding, I do not envy those people at all, because it is the bride and groom at the end of the day, all they do is get worn out and beat down. To me, it's other than the ceremony itself, some of the reception, but they're working pretty much the whole time. I mean, it really is. If you don't have a bunch of money to invest in a wedding planner that does all the footwork for you, it's tough. It's a lot of work.
I wouldn't know anything. One thing I will say that I just thought about. Ladies, listen up. I hope you heard that. Garrett's wife hung around 9 years before they ever even got married. So, just a little side note. Don't push us.
That's right. We'll get to it one day.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, she knew how much of a catch Garrett was. She wasn't going anywhere.
Oh, I hope she don't listen later on.
We'll both be in trouble.
Well, keep your phone on, man, because I might have to call you before we play state night. Okay? That's all I'm going to say.
Well, let's get into the top 25. This is UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Jason Bishop, Garrett Gibbs. Another big Florida, and it's a couple weeks ago we had a big Florida State game. Here we are a couple weeks later. Number 7 Miami goes to number 2 Florida State. What you got, man?
Well, I mean the Noles at home, the Canes coming in. The Canes definitely have a lot better team than they've had in previous years. They're on the upswing. They're coming back to prominence, but there's something in the water over in Tallahassee, man. Down and over in Tallahassee, I think that they have got a superb defense, and I think they're too deep for Miami. I think they get it done, and they get it done big late.
I think Florida State is ready. I think that this is going to be their year. They make a serious push. Miami, I feel like maybe a year, 2 years away. They're still a very young football team.
They're still really young. You're right.
Going to Tallahassee, I agree with you. The atmosphere is going to be insane. I don't think they're ready for that. I like Florida State, and I don't even think it's going to be close.
Well, and I'll tell you, I mean, traditionally in this rivalry, I mean, the home field really hasn't played a big factor, really in the outcomes of these games. Because, I mean, it wasn't but, I don't know, 4 years ago or so that Miami went up to Tallahassee and they beat them in their own house. So I don't think the home field in this particular rivalry really plays a big factor. I think that Florida State simply has a better football team.
Okay. Another big rivalry, Ohio State at Purdue. Not really the ring of Florida State Miami, does it?
No, not quite. Ohio State rolls big in that one. I mean, I don't see any.
Do you think so? Because I'm not. I don't think so. I'm. Here it comes. Here's my upset pick.
Uh-oh.
Purdue takes down the unbeaten Ohio State Buckeyes. Write it down in pen.
Now, Saturday when they played Penn State, I thought Penn State might actually have a little something for the Buckeyes, and Ohio State rolled out to a big lead at half. I think it was something like 35-0 at half, and I just think that Purdue don't have the firepower to stay with Ohio State. They just don't.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be a letdown game, but we'll see. You could be right. Tennessee goes to number 10 Missouri. Of course, Missouri coming off the huge loss, at least in the SEC East picture, to South Carolina. What a game that was, that South Carolina-Missouri game. That's one of the craziest games I've ever seen.
That's the thing about Carolina that gets me. They just get beat down by somebody who they shouldn't lose to. They turn around. a couple weeks ago they lose to Tennessee, and then they come out and they beat Missouri. I mean, who would have thought that?
And the thing is,
because Carolina's kind of beat up right now.
Yeah, don't forget now, Missouri still has on their schedule the last 2 weeks of their season. They have to go to Ole Miss, and they also will be hosting Texas A&M. So the SEC East could get really, really interesting right here at the end.
Yeah, it sure enough could.
Number 9, Clemson on the road to Virginia. It looked like Clemson got shook off that little funk the first part of their game this past week. I think they're going to be okay against Virginia. I got them big.
Yep.
Number 18, Oklahoma State goes to 15, Texas Tech. Texas Tech looked better than Oklahoma in every phase except where it counts
on the scoreboard.
I'm going to take Texas Tech at home against Oklahoma State. They look really physical. I think Kingsbury's doing a good job there.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a close game, though.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. Oklahoma State's got a good team.
There's one I don't think is going to be close. 8, Auburn at Arkansas.
No.
No?
No. I think Auburn is a sleeper in the SEC. I really do, in the SEC West. That's going to really make that end of the season, the Iron Bowl. That's going to make that so interesting.
Yeah, sure is. And of course, that's if. Well, even if Alabama gets by LSU. All right, Colorado goes to number 17, UCLA. Played pretty well with Stanford. UCLA did. I don't think Colorado's got anything for the Bruins. Bruins win big, especially being at home.
Buffalo's going to get buffaloed.
UTEP goes to Texas A&M. No challenge here for the Aggies.
No, sir.
Number 21, Northern Illinois on the road at UMass. Garrett, is this it? Is this your? We're running out of games, man.
No, I don't think that can't be my upset this week. As much as I'm on the fence about it, no, I'm gonna lean to Northern Illinois will roll in that one.
Okay, Mississippi State at 14, South Carolina. I'm taking the Gamecocks now. A renewed sense of energy, not with just them, but everybody in the SEC East.
I'm on the fence with that one too, because the only reason why I say that is because Carolina's kind of beat up right now. Mississippi State has a chance, but you're right. I mean, I think Carolina just has too much firepower.
Okay, I got you. All right, 23, Michigan at 24, Michigan State. You know what's funny is Michigan State wasn't ranked, of course, coming into this week, and all of a sudden, the week they're supposed to play Michigan, magically they roll into the top 25 somehow.
Yes, sir, and I think that out of all the games this week, I look at that one right there. It's only one spot, but Michigan State gets it done in that one.
Garrett's taking 24 over 23 for his upset.
I got to be conservative, man. I got to be conservative.
I'm going to go the other way. I think Michigan's better. We'll go with them. Iowa at 23, Wisconsin. I think Iowa's going to give Wisconsin everything they want, plus some. Wisconsin, because they're at Camp Randall, get it done.
Get it done.
All right, Arizona State at Washington State. Arizona State can't figure out whether or not they want to be in the top 25. They don't ever get past 20, and they just rotate in and out from 23 to nothing, 23 to out, 23 to out. Washington State's terrible. I'm going to take Arizona State.
Yeah.
All right, when we get back, we're going to let Garrett rant on the targeting rule. This is UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network.
When Heron Document Systems opened, a connected copier meant it was simply plugged into the wall. Well, things have changed. 30 years later, the copier is the focal point of document workflow. It's not just the printer, fax, and scanner. It's much more. In the medical office, it's integrating patient information with their electronic medical records. In the legal office, it's performing OCR, Bates stamping, and tracking expense for client billing. All of these changes over the past 30 years, and Heron Document Systems is still here. Still, providing your business with the best solution for your document and workflow pains. Every business experiences those pains, and that's okay. With Heron Document Systems, there is a better solution. Visit heronds.com for more information. Heron Document Systems in Brunswick, the efficient solution for your business.
And back here on UnCleated. So, here it is. Everybody's been talking about it. Media's been all over it. We've discussed it a little bit. The targeting rule.
I think that. What can I say about the targeting rule? I think everybody in the world that has a brain can agree with me here that the targeting rule in football, period, goes from the NFL all the way down to the Pop Warner leagues. I just hate it. I mean, I think everybody hates it. I think it's another way for the referees to control the outcome of the game. I really do. And as much as I hate to say that, I really don't. But they can call it, pretty much on a fundamental tackle. Every fundamental tackle across the middle, they can call it. It's kind of left up to their discretion. I think if it's not a blatant helmet to helmet like I've seen before in football, when it was still football, there have been some blatant, especially across the middle. That's where a lot of the injuries happen. But across the middle, you blindside a guy, you take a cheap shot at a man, you go high, and you lead with your helmet, not with your pad. That's totally legal, leading with your pad. Even if you take the guy's head off, that is legal. That is legal. But they're calling it on those plays right there. That's where it rubs me raw.
UnCleated, the Bishop Media Sports Network, Garrett, Gibbs, Jason Bishop. Here's the thing. In the past, essentially, if you had a pretty good quarterback, decent receiver, you can pretty much run those slant routes all day long and be successful. Why you didn't was because when you put a receiver over the middle and put him in front of a linebacker or in front of a safety defenseless, looking at the football trying to make the catch, he consistently would open himself up to a big hit.
Yeah.
And so they would stay away from that because they didn't want to get guys hurt. By implementing the targeting rule, you're taking that away. You are essentially giving the offense the ability to go over the middle whenever they want and run those slants, and there's nothing, I don't care what defensive scheme you run, there's nothing that you could do about it. You could play man-to-man, you could go cover 2, you could go cover 3, it doesn't matter. You can run multiple slants and find openings in the defense, and if you can't, quote-unquote, target a defenseless player or a player coming over the middle and be physical with them so that it's in their mind thinking about it when they're coming, oh God, I'm going to get drilled catching this football. They don't have to worry about that now.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're taking away you're tying up the hands of the defense is what you're doing. You're essentially making it where the offense has endless options going down the field, and they can just run slants over the middle all day long and gain positive yards because they're not having to worry about getting decleated when they come across the line. Well, here's the flip side of that. Okay, what about going low?
You're almost forcing defensive players to do that, and then of course you have penalties for that too. So essentially, you're giving them a very small window. The ironic thing is we're sitting here talking about toughness in football, and I just realized I'm holding a pink pen. I'm not real sure where it came from.
It's breast cancer awareness.
Maybe that's where I got it from. Good deal. It just dawned on me. We're talking.
That's what that is.
Toughness and how and I'm holding a pink pen.
Yeah, you're the spokesperson of toughness right now. I just wish our listeners could see you. That's good. But no, man. Going back to the targeting thing, I think coming across the middle, I think going low is even more dangerous than going high. I mean, now you're going to see knee injuries. Out the wazoo, because what are you leaving these guys to do? I mean, other than stepping out of the way and letting the guy go and just, you can't horse collar anymore. They flag you for that. Which I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that because I think there again you're having these knee injuries, because of horse collar tackles, okay? Not every tackle, but I mean, they're erring on the side of safety, but where does it end? Okay, where does it end? I think, from my perspective, I believe if you're going to err to the side of safety, if that's really your concern, take the pads off. Well, better yet, leave the pads on and play flag. Just be done with it.
Flag football?
Flag football. Because football, as it stands today, it's not football. It's not really football.
Essentially what they're trying... Gosh, it's going to sound so silly saying, but essentially what they're trying to do is they're trying to teach more fundamentally sound tackling instead of the big hit. But the thing, and I'm all for that. I do. I think anything to make the game a little safer, sure, without that. Here's the key thing: without taking away from the effect of the game. And I think the targeting rule is that what you're doing is literally all you're saying is you are not allowed to light somebody up.
Right.
And if you light somebody up, you're going to be ejected out of the football game. That's been a part of the game forever, long before any of us came along. And we were talking about George Rose earlier, and he was talking about that, just how ridiculous that was. He, of course, he played defensive back in the NFL, and he was just like, I can't even imagine trying to tackle anybody right now in the NFL.
No, man, and it all boils down to this. This is football. These guys are playing. Okay, this is the reason why those 100,000 fans show up in the stands is because it's a violent game,
and it's no secret that it is.
It's a violent game. That's why they have gear. That's why there are penalties. But when you start treading on taking away what makes football, that's where you're going way too far. I mean, I just don't see, if you're going to keep the targeting rule, where does it end? I mean, the end result is going to be flag football.
Touch, yeah.
Or touch.
Yeah.
Either one. I mean, that's what you're going to have. And I just think when you got a guy coming across the middle and the guy hits him in the shoulder pads, whether it's with his helmet or his pads, and just uproots the guy. He turns, flips, whatever. That is football, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, but that is part of the game. That is the way it is supposed to be played. No, you're not supposed to go out there and deliberately try to inflict bodily harm on fellas, but on players, other players. But unfortunately, it's going to happen.
But Garrett, that's barbaric.
Wow. Well, I guess I'm a barbarian then. I mean, I just... I like to see a guy get lit up across the middle. I don't like to see anybody get hurt, but I think, these guys are willingly partaking in this sport.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing, okay? Yeah. And getting into somebody's head with a big hit, that's part of the psychological aspect of the game.
Yeah, all right. Well, we can go all day on this, and
No
at least once a show that we're getting yelled at by the producer. You're running long. We got to get out. So here's our at least once a show that we're being yelled at that we got to get out. Hard break. UnCleated, the Bishop Media Sports Network.
When Heron Document Systems opened, a connected copier meant it was simply plugged into the wall. Well, things have changed. 30 years later, the copier is the focal point of document workflow. It's not just the printer, fax, and scanner. It's much more. In the medical office, it's integrating patient information with their electronic medical records. In the legal office, it's performing OCR, Bates stamping, and tracking expense for client billing. All of these changes over the past 30 years, and Heron Document Systems is still here. Still, providing your business with the best solution for your document and workflow pains. Every business experiences those pains, and that's okay. With Heron Document Systems, there is a better solution. Visit HeronDS.com for more information. Heron Document Systems in Brunswick. The efficient solution for your business.
And back, UnCleated, Garrett Gibbs, Jason Bishop on the Bishop Media Sports Network. So we got a big rivalry game coming up. It's the annual Georgia-Florida down in Jacksonville, and if you're out and about in Southeast Georgia, Northeast Florida, make sure that you look for the Georgia-Florida issue of the Southern Sports Edition, their annual Georgia-Florida issue. It's a good read, definitely a good read. So, a couple weeks ago, we didn't think there was going to be too much on the line here for either one of these teams, and then South Carolina steps up and does something to Mizzou and shows some fight, and so now there's a chance still, believe it or not, in a roundabout way, still got to get some help, but it's a chance for really the winner of this football game to still be in the hunt in the SEC East.
Yeah, I think, the winner of this game, like you just said, Jason, is their fate is still, is still in Missouri's hands, but they still got a shot. Missouri's got a couple of tough SEC games coming up down the road, as you mentioned earlier in the show.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention Tennessee, and Tennessee's playing a lot better too right now.
Tennessee is playing better, although they didn't showcase it, much against Alabama. But
who does?
Yeah, I mean, Alabama just control people at will. So, there is a lot on the line. I thought beginning of the season, I thought there wouldn't be much of a. I know it's Georgia-Florida. I know it's, one of the biggest rivalries in the whole conference. but I just thought that Georgia on paper was so much better than Florida. But you know what? With all the injuries, with the way that the defense is played or lack thereof, I think Georgia's going to have to pretend they have a defense Saturday if they're going to even stand a chance with the Gators. They're going to come in and play tough. They had an off week. I believe both schools had an off week.
Mm-hmm. They did.
To prepare for this game, and they're both going to be ready. I just think that the Florida defense is going to be the difference maker.
What's funny is I was just mentioning that Southern Sports Edition issue, the Georgia-Florida. There's a story, and they're written by Kevin Price, and the title of the story is UGA's No Fence.
Hey, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Florida's defense has been phenomenal all year long. It's pretty much carried them to where they are, of course, with Driscoll being out for the remainder of the year when he went down earlier in the season. And Tyler Murphy, he's played okay. I certainly think it's still a step back from where Driscoll was. So, the thing is, they don't score very many points. Georgia gives up a lot of points. And Georgia at the beginning of the year, yeah, they scored a lot, but they don't right now.
I disagree with you, Jason. I think the Gator offense is better with Tyler Murphy taking
Do you really?
Snap. I do because he has the leg factor. He can move it a lot better on the ground than Driscoll, ever did. He's a lot quicker. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's a better, passer, but it gives with Murphy taking the snaps, they have a lot more speed coming out of the backfield.
That may be true, and what I've seen, and I think Muschamp even kind of mentioned this, that he considers Murphy more of a game manager rather than a quarterback
than a playmaker.
Than a playmaker. Where granted, it's not like Driscoll was setting the world on fire before then, but with his experience in leadership, if the game was tight and you needed a late, a last minute fourth quarter drive, he at least was capable of doing that, making big throws. And I'm not sure Tyler Murphy can do that. Sure, I think with his legs he might be able to do some of that, but I don't know. I don't think I agree with you on that.
Well, I think Driscoll. You look at his numbers. I mean, in big games, he got to be where he was interception and turnover prone, and that's one thing that that he didn't manage the game as well as Murphy has. I mean, Murphy, he doesn't throw up 4 or 5 TDs a game, but right now they don't. I say they don't have to. I mean, they're not scoring a lot of points, and they're not even putting up 20 a game right now. But I think he gives them the best chance to win because he's not going to go out there and make a bunch of rookie, quote unquote, rookie mistakes, and he's played with a lot of poise, this season given the circumstance. He's pretty much just had all of it thrown right there in his lap the whole season, the whole faith of the Gator nation, and I think he's done pretty good. And like I said, man, I think the defense, Georgia's going to have trouble moving the football against Florida's defense, and it looks like to me that Georgia doesn't even have a defense. So I look for Florida to put if Vanderbilt hung 30 on Georgia, I don't see why Florida doesn't.
Okay,
I really don't.
UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Garrett Gibbs along with Jason Bishop. You get Todd Gurley back, I'm assuming.
He's supposed to play.
He's supposed to play, so that's going to help you a good bit as far as keeping the defense honest. You're still missing your entire receiving core. You're still missing your exceptional backup in Marshall.
Well, from what I understand, Michael Bennett and who's the other guy, Conley, were practicing this past week, I believe.
Okay.
So they're going to somewhat be questionable.
Yeah, that's the report I saw was questionable, doubtful on both guys. Georgia's offense still isn't going to be at 100%. That was the strength of the team. That was kind of the hope going into this season, that the defense would play well enough and the offense would just be able to outscore folks and then get folks hurt all over the offense, and your defense isn't good enough to stop anybody. I think Georgia's offense is going to be in for a tough time. I think they're in for a rude awakening against how fast that Florida defense is, and I even think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and I think something like 21-17, and I think Florida gets it done.
Yeah, that's very possible. I just don't see where from the way I look at it, in my opinion, I just don't think Georgia's really going to be able to stop them. I think, the addition of Gurley, coming back, that's going to help you, but you're still one-dimensional.
And I agree with that. And I'm not saying I'm not saying I think the Georgia defense is going to stop the Florida offense.
Right.
I just think the Florida offense struggles so much they'll get themselves off the field.
Yeah, they could. They could. I mean, big game. We'll see. This is going to be probably the biggest test he's faced all year in Tyler Murphy. So we'll just see if he's like Driscoll-esque. This
is a game that Aaron Murray, he didn't play well against Vanderbilt, but again, he was trying to make throws he had no business making.
And he has a history of not playing well against Florida.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Quit stealing the words out of my mouth. So, right, this is a game where he's got to step up. And the season has not gone the way you wanted it to the last few weeks, okay? We understand that. But the thing is, if you finish strong, you still, at worst case scenario, have a chance of finishing with 3 losses. That might get you into a BCS game if you can somehow find your way into a SEC championship game, some roundabout way, which is still not completely possible. Off the table.
Yeah.
I know it sounds far-fetched, believe me. I hear myself, and it sounds far-fetched to myself. So Georgia fans, don't blow me up with emails telling me that I'm wrong. It sounds far-fetched. I'm admitting it, but there's still a chance. And I'm still not convinced that Missouri is as good as they play to this point. That they've beaten a Florida team that can't score. They beat a Georgia team that couldn't stop anybody. South Carolina, when they were really put to a test against a team that was pretty good on both sides of the ball, they didn't get the job done.
No, they did. They lost at the late minute of the game. So, Missouri still, as you mentioned earlier in the show, I think this is the 3rd time we mentioned it, but they still got 2 really tough games, left on the schedule in conference. So if they go down to both of those games, they've already got that one loss, that one conference loss. If they go down both of those games, which is, like you said, far-fetched, they go down in those games and Georgia or Florida wins out, there's still a chance.
There is a chance, and then you get on all sorts of crazy tiebreaker situations that we don't have time to go into. You don't want to sit there and listen to us because it would be monotonous. It would just be ridiculous.
It's setting up for another BCS killer like there is every year.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, I would rather see Alabama play South Carolina or Georgia than Missouri. I think that's a better game, and I think it's more of a challenge to Alabama, and I'm pretty sure that Oregon and Florida State feel the same way.
Oh, yeah. Right now, I mean,
When we get back, we're going to talk. Garrett's going to talk about some Washington Redskins. Now, here's the thing. They're not even in our coverage area, so I'm not even sure how the hell he got away with getting it approved with the producers. I have no idea what's coming. This is UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network.
When Heron Document Systems opened, a connected copier meant it was simply plugged into the wall. Well, things have changed. 30 years later, the copier is the focal point of document workflow. It's not just the printer, fax, and scanner. It's much more. In the medical office, it's integrating patient information with their electronic medical records. In the legal office, it's performing OCR, Bates stamping, and tracking expense for client billing. All of these changes over the past 30 years, and Heron Document Systems is still here. Still, providing your business with the best solution for your document and workflow pains. Every business experiences those pains, and that's okay. With Heron Document Systems, there is a better solution. Visit HeronDS.com for more information. Heron Document Systems in Brunswick, the efficient solution for your business.
Rolling a little old school on you. Welcome back. This is UnCleated for Jason Bishop. I'm Garrett Gibbs. I want to talk a little bit about the old school Washington Redskins. Now you say, old school, their franchise has been around for quite some time, but hey, they're talking about, there's been a big push You know, and I'm not even going to get into RG3. I know that's what everybody's thinking. I'm going to talk about RG3.
I mean, that they are out of our coverage area.
Well, yeah, but everybody knows who RG3 is, man. I mean, come on. But, hey, what I'm going to talk about is their name. You know, the Redskins. There's been a big push to remove the Redskins name from the team. And I just think that is absolutely absurd. I really do. I don't see where, and this doesn't only, I'm singling out the Redskins, but this doesn't only apply to them. I mean, you have the Seminoles, the Aztecs, the Braves. You've got so many names out there that refer to a particular, race of people, I guess, if you want to call it that. I don't see where it's degrading at all. If anything, it honors them. And I do believe that these organizations that have these that bear these names, that they're a positive influence in the community, not a negative one. So I just think that this is stupid. I mean, what else can I say?
Every few years we have this.
Every few years,
it's no different. Every few years, it's typically focused on Native Americans. Redskins, Seminoles, up in Atlanta when I was up there, we heard a couple of groundswells too about the Braves. So the thing is, it's never, as long as the teams, I get your point, but as long as the teams have those names, these situations aren't going away. And these situations are only going to gain more and more support. Do I think they'll ever get to the point?
Well,
I don't think so.
Reason why that is because you got more and more stupid people multiplying. Let's just face it. I mean, this ain't politically correct. Let's be honest. I mean, it's just stupid. We got more important things to worry about in this country besides that. So let's take our focus off of that. Focus on what's really important. But that's another discussion in itself. But I just don't see where it's degrading. I mean, where do you? Much like the targeting rule in football, where does it stop? Okay, where does it stop? I mean, do we change their name to the Washington pieces of paper? I mean, that's degrading to paper. Okay, so where do we stop? I mean, the next is going to be pet mascots, because I've heard some things about that too. And I just, once you open the door, it doesn't quit. People will say, "Oh no, we're just going to talk about the Redskins and the Braves and the teams like that, the Seminoles," but it ain't going to stop there. It's going to go right on down to the Bulldogs, to the Volunteers, even though they got a dog mascot. So any team that has a pet mascot, they're coming after y'all too. So be on the lookout.
The thing is, again, we're moving out of coverage area, but I'm using this as an example. So I don't know how you got away with this, but I tried this a couple weeks ago and I got fussed at. So I'm going to take it full well advantage.
I took him to lunch.
God.
That works wonders, man. You'd be surprised.
Cheap date. All right, so San Francisco 49ers. All right, that was a derogatory term for those folks that were coming across the country trying to find gold over in California. They called them 49ers because that's when the gold rush was. In
1849.
That's right. And so it was a derogatory term used to describe those people that were coming across country trying to get rich quick by finding gold. So now, of course, San Francisco employs that nickname or that franchise name as their nickname. And I don't hear anything about it.
Yeah.
I don't ever hear any folks complaining or any of those relatives complaining or any of that stuff. But yes, it was a derogatory term. So, to your point, you can go on for days and days and days. Volunteers, same thing. It was a group of people that were volunteering to go to war in the state of Tennessee.
Right.
And Tennessee takes great pride in that.
They do. It's part of their history.
In other parts of the country, it's derogatory.
But look, it's history whether you like it or not. It is history, okay. And so I think for the whole big picture of things, I'm not going to get too elaborate with this, but I think for the whole big picture of things, that history needs to be preserved, whether it's favorable or whether it's not. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
because the Oklahoma Sooners have the same argument. They're the same thing as the 49ers.
Point. Yeah, very good point. The thing at the end of the day is it's a sports team. Get over it. Get over it. Move on.
Right.
This is UnCleated. Garrett Gibbs, Jason Bishop on the Bishop Media Sports Network. I'll tell you one thing that gets me fired up is when I'm sitting at home. Number one, there's nothing ever. I'm gonna keep myself in order because I'm getting way ahead of myself. So the thing that gets me fired up is when I'm sitting at home. There's nothing going on, no sports games, anything like that. It's a quiet evening in the Bishop household, which, believe me, it doesn't happen often where Jason Bishop is actually just sitting down not doing anything. I think most folks that know me know that. But so when that does happen and I go and I have Netflix. And I turn Netflix on and then the list of movies that stream, I do get one DVD delivered to my house a week.
I used to do that.
Okay. So, but mostly I've got the streaming as well. And I sit there and I'll spend 30, 45, 50 minutes just trying to find a damn good movie to watch. Because there's nothing on that streaming list that's worth watching, ever. And then when you do find something, you'll get 20 minutes into it, and then it's like, network down.
Yeah, I think that's a popular response when using
Does that happen
that
to you
service.
too?
Oh, it happens to me all the time. I mean, what I try to do is get in there. For my quiet time, we do actually have two TVs in our living room that sit in very, very close proximity to one another, and they actually face the same way. Well, when I have my wife and the kids, they'll be on the couch. They want to watch Netflix or something like that. I get the TV to myself over here to either watch something on cable, like a baseball game, football game, what have you, or I get the choice of putting on my little headphones and throwing on the PS3 or something like that, and just enjoying my quiet time, so to speak, my kind of me time. And I glance over there to the other TV, and it's like network down. So it's affected me on two different levels. And it's really it really does. It ticks you off, man. It really does. And you think there's nothing wrong with my internet going on here. So what is the deal?
I end up playing Wii golf a lot of times. I'll just give up and I'll play Wii golf, which is much different than my regular golf game. Because on Wii golf, I'm like 18 under. I'm
you
awesome.
Don't miss a shot.
No, I don't, man. I can hit those 40-foot putts with my eyes closed. I wish it was
like that.
I was going to say, I wish that was my real golf
factor didn't come into that.
Oh man, yeah.
I tell you.
I'm still trying to get myself out of the 90s. I'm trying to
get
clear
there.
the 90s.
You'll get there.
Oh, I hope so.
Short game's where it's at, brother.
Oh, well, all I got is long.
You got a long game.
Even when I'm trying to hit a putt, I'll just chip it over the green.
10-foot approach putt, 10-foot return putt. I mean, you still those dreaded words a golfer never wants to hear. You're still away. You're still away, bro.
Oh man, I've lost so many golf balls in the woods. Like I will literally pack my bag full of golf balls, and then when a round's over, I'll have maybe a third of it left.
Hey, it's like this, man. You hit driver from the tee. You hit, approach irons, the mid iron, something like that. 6, 7, 8 iron. Then you hit putt. Then you hit wedge. Then you hit putt again.
That's about the way I go. Me and a buddy went and played. It was like my second time playing, and I had about a 65 yards away from the hole. So I was just going to try and chip it up, and so 65 yards. Remember that? So I grabbed a 6 iron.
Wow, a little too much club there, buddy. Was it like a 40-mile-an-hour wind or something?
I just unloaded, and the ball just flies over the hole and goes into the parking lot. And my buddy's standing there, and he looks at me and says, "What iron did you use?" And I said, "A 6." He was like, "No."
No. Distance control, baby.
I never did find that ball.
I imagine not. It's probably still bouncing somewhere.
Speaking of bouncing, we got to bounce out. This has been UnCleated with Garrett Gibbs and Jason Bishop on the Bishop Media Sports Network.